Hi, my name is Todd. I'm running for the position of Vice President of Education at the SRC. My current position on council is the Humanities Representative, and I'm a fourth year student studying history and sociology.
Great, so what experience do you have that will prepare you for this role, and could you name any specific achievements?
So over the last year, obviously, as I've said, I've been on council as a humanities representative. I think I kind of got involved with the SRC through Freshers Helping, and I think that was a great way to kind of understanding the SRC and how it works and all the facilities it has on offer. I think that really introduced me to how the SRC kind of functions and things that I just didn't know the SRC did, like campus tours, the advice centre, and kind of the second-hand bookshop and all the great facilities that the SRC actually offers. So obviously on council, I feel like I've had a number of achievements, some big and some small. So I think kind of just my kind of main achievement is probably just opening up communication with students through kind of I've had to obviously hold my class representative meetings. I feel like I've got quite close to my class reps and fostered good relationships with them. And I've worked with other school representatives on academic forum, and we've been working a lot on assessment and feedback, which has been really positive. We've been taking good ideas of like good practice and kind of seeing how we can kind of standardise this across colleges and things like that. So that's been really great as well. And I think it's also been really great PRing the work of the SRC and getting students to engage with the SRC. So we've been kind of promoting the STAs, so the Student Teaching Awards, and the Charity Clubs and Society Awards, which was just recently, which was really positive as well. So I've had a lot of part to play in that as well, which has been really great. So I think my main achievement is just being kind of communicating with staff and students and just solving any problems anyone within my school has. And I think that's basically what being VP Education is all about. It's it's a student and a staff facing role, and seeing how we can bridge kind of the gap between the two and solve any problems anyone's having along the way.
Great, so in your manifesto you say that you will push for 24-hour access to either the library or a dedicated study space. What have you done to investigate the viability of this?
So I think this in my manifesto is something that's definitely going to be misinterpreted, but I just want a 24-hour space, be it just a room or maybe a floor of the library, just so everyone has access to this space, because right now the Maths building and the Wilson building, those students have access to those space out of hours, but I think it would be good to have a space for every student. So the viability of this, so I've spoke to Susan Ashworth, who's the head librarian at Glasgow University Library, and she said it's something she's definitely willing to consider, and something that's definitely going to be put up for discussion if I get the post. So she said the best way, and we kind of discussed how the best way to pilot this would probably be to pilot over an exam period to see how many students use this and to see how popular a facility it was. So it could just be another space, or it could be the library. We could kind of toy with either idea. I've spoke to students at Katy University who have access to a 24-hour lab in their Students' Association, and I've kind of like figured out how that worked and kind of how cost effective it was there. So basically for them, their facility is open 9 to 5, and then out of hours access they just get in via a card, and it's all kind of operated by just CCTV, and then they have campus security guards who check on it. So this doesn't necessarily need to be a thing that's going to be really expensive and costly to the university, but because so many other universities across the world have 24-hour access, I think it's an idea that Glasgow should definitely start toying with, and we should see how viable it is and if it's something that students would use.
Perfect. So another common problem year on year is the university's late publication of the exam timetable. Why did you not mention this in your manifesto?
I think I didn't mention it in my manifesto just because I had some new ideas I wanted to toy with and bring forward, and I also think the exam timetable is kind of a long-term goal, which I think every VP Education will keep taking forward as we kind of go, and obviously it's something I think I will definitely, if I become VP Education, keep pushing for, and something that I think for everyone, especially for people booking flights and stuff, it's so necessary to have it at a reasonable time before, so it's cheaper and so they know what they're kind of doing. So I'll definitely keep pushing for it if I get the post. I do definitely think it's very important.
Great. You mentioned expanding the use of lecture recordings. Have you looked into the feasibility of this?
Sorry, yes I have. So I think year on year people put this in their manifestos and don't think about, they just say, oh, I'm going to get people like lecture recordings, I'm going to put it in my manifesto. I wanted to think about how I could do this and why I wanted to do it. So I think place to start is to ask students, why is this important to you, other than you don't want to get out of bed? Because there's so many reasons that students need this service. Dyslexic students, having a lecture recorded would be really great for them. Students who suffer from mental health issues, sometimes people just can't get out of bed, and it would be a really great way to kind of get that sorted as well. It would also be really great for students whose first language isn't English, so it could mean they could pause and they could look up definitions. Also, if you're just ill, it would be really good just to have a lecture recorded. Being from arts, I know that sometimes you're just faced with a slide and there's like 2 sentences and you're just, what's happened? So I think I think if I collate a report showing that there's student want for this, I think that would encourage lecturers to kind of get involved more. So I think that's more where I'd go with my manifesto, maybe have kind of a conference with lecturers and show them kind of, this is the technology we have, these are the spaces we have that use this technology, and this is how you can use it and how it's easy to actually use and access. So I think the first thing is to focus on the student welfare and why we need this. Also, I think it's better to tackle this now, before the learning and teaching hub and all these other spaces are built in the campus development, so these have the technology built in, so hopefully in the future Vice Presidents of Education will not have to put lecture recording in their manifesto.
Great, so what will you do to ensure that the university is held accountable for its 3-week turnaround time for essays and assessments, and do you have any plans to push for decreasing this time?
Personally, I've been on learning and teaching committees with staff, and I've talked about this issue already all throughout the year. So I think 3 weeks, I think personally 3 weeks is a good time for staff, because it is a lot of pressure on staff when they have hundreds of essays for first years and second years, less so for people in honours. But I think the main thing we need to focus on here is staff-student communication, and make sure those communication channels are open, so staff can tell students, right, this is what's going on, this is what stage I'm at, and students can understand and reciprocate. So I just think it's opening those communication channels and making sure they exist. And obviously I'll push to maintain the 3 weeks, and hopefully that will just continue to be a standardised kind of policy. But I think definitely communication is something that can be worked on in terms of the 3-week turnaround.
The SRC's engagement with the wider student body is often noted as poor. So how will you promote the underused study spaces on campus?
So I think for me personally, underused study spaces is something I definitely want to promote and tell students about to a larger extent, just because there's so many study spaces on campus that people don't know about. There's so many computer clusters, there's just so many computer labs and places, not even necessarily with computers, places just students can go to study. So I would definitely like to collate a list of these places. I'm pretty sure Kate did via an email, so she emailed everyone out, but I'd maybe do this on a more regular basis, like prior to exam period and during the exam period, because I think right now people don't leave the library, they just leave the library going, oh, I don't know where I'm going to go. But I want students to know that I have these other options. So the Adam Smith has computer clusters, the Hetherington building has a computer cluster. There's so many all over campus that I think definitely needs to be told to students, and students need to know these facilities exist. And also in terms of student engagement, I think the SRC is getting better at engaging with students. I know the recent kind of rector elections kind of pointed to otherwise, but I think now that nominations are reopened, students are definitely keen to get involved, and there's a couple of societies that have spoke to me personally saying, I'm going to nominate this person, I'm going to nominate that person. Also, like the STAs have been a big success so far. We've been promoting that tirelessly, and we've had more nominations than we've ever had, and the Charities, Clubs and Societies Awards recently happened as well, and that was really positive. So in terms of student engagement, it's something I really want to work on, and communication it's always been in the strategic plan, the SRC strategic plan, and I always think it should be at the forefront of the Vice President of Education's mind when they're making any decisions or promoting any events.
Brilliant. You also mentioned implementing a system where students can gain exam feedback more easily and effectively. How will you ensure that this happens and that students know about it?
Definitely. So I think the problem with exam feedback is the lack of exam feedback, and I know most schools or colleges you don't get any exam feedback, and that is for a number of reasons. Obviously it's quite time consuming and things like that to give feedback for every single exam, so that's not what I'm going for with this policy. What I'm going for is basically trying to make it easier to get the feedback when you want it. So say you sat an exam, you got a C, and you don't know why you got a C because you worked really hard for that grade. it should be easier for you to find out why, because right now you have to go through so many channels and so many different people to try and find out this information. I want to try and create a system where this is more possible and feasible. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this yet, but I'm looking right now at examples of schools like the business school, and basically right now they get feedback for every exam, and it just comes in the form of a small paragraph. But that's because they have a very dedicated team of people that are putting a lot of time and effort into making this possible. But I want to look at how they do that, and to see if that's a transferable thing, or to see if there's any kind of ideas of good practices across other schools that we can make more standardised to make this system easier and effective for students across campus.
Perfect. Thank you for talking to us today, Hannah.
Thank you very much.